of amazing, uplifting stories that can be told so we can tell our children and they can tell their children of what hope and conscious action is all about.
I want to thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on transformationtalkradio.com.
It's what the world has been waiting for and needing for a really long time. Introducing you to Maximize Your Healing Power by Dr. Sharon Martin, available now. This book takes you on an empowering journey that teaches you how to have control over your own health, bridging the divide between Western medicine and shamanic practices of energy healing. Order today and get a free bundle of gifts from Dr. Sharon Martin and several of her partners. For more information, visit drsharonmartin.com.
Welcome to Our Soul Whisper with Kathy Belmont and co-host Dr. Pat, a sacred space for self-discovery, healing, and transformation. At the heart of Our Soul Whisper is the sacred truth. When we pause and listen inward, the soul always speaks. This show offers a safe, empowering space where those whispers are heard, honored, and lovingly guided into full expression. Each episode invites you to be curious about yourself and the reality you're in, while gently reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. Let today's message settle in your heart. Maybe even journal about it. And if something resonates, peace, clarity, or insight, pass it along to someone whose soul might be calling for the same. Keep listening inward. Your soul knows the way. Our Soul Whisper starts now. Dr. Pat and I get to take this journey with the most amazing Kathy Belmont. And you know what Kathy pulled out today is, I have to say that I actually believe it is a silent killer. And we're talking about the connection paradox. Why we feel lonely in a hyper-connected world. And I don't want to just talk about that for a minute. Kathy's going to really take this on. But loneliness is now called an epidemic because about 30% of US adults experience isolation, 16% globally. There are severe health risks comparative to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But the question is, why? What is it? Is there an illusion here? What is the illusion we create? And how does all of this relate to isolating us in a place of helplessness? Kathy, thank you for taking this topic on.
No, you're welcome. Hi, everyone. Thanks. Thanks for that intro. And it really got me in touch with really starting off with defining loneliness and then social isolation, because they are a little bit different. And so, loneliness, it's more of that subjective feeling, this lack of this disconnection or lacking, close relationships, where social isolation is more objective. We can measure it in a sense, where that lack, the not having family, connections or friends or community, a little bit more measurable. And so it's interesting because we can be isolated and maybe not feel lonely, and we can feel lonely and not be isolated. We can be in groups of people and feel lonely. So, we have this illusion of connection, and I really wanted to look at social media and artificial intelligence here, because this is a part of so many ways we connect, and yet when we look at it, how intimately are we really connecting? We think about the connections, the friends and the followers we have on a lot of these apps, and we're observing one another. Do we truly know one another? And so it's just an interesting question to ponder, as we engage in this technology. And I watched a really inspiring TED Talk. It was a young person shared her relationship with apps and social media. And she said she shared about 10 years of her life. She was chronically focused on her apps. It was her main way of communicating. And she started to realize the impact of that and how her relationships with her families and friends, the fact that her pings were the focus of her attention. And so she then, I don't know if she created this word, but she shared that she chose abstinence, APP, abstinence, from this type of communication and chose to really focus on more of the personal. In fact, she even showed that she went away from using a smartphone to just a basic phone to call and text. And so that was her way of saying, I want more of that personal connection. She also shared in this TED Talk, very powerful, I'll share the name of it if anyone would like to watch it, but that there was a 2023 Gallup poll on American teenagers. And that it found that they spent an average of 33 hours a week on social media. That's close to a full-time job. And that really opened my eyes to the amount of time. And so you think about the mental implications as far as our mental health, spending that much time engaging on social media. I'll say maybe we see it a lot in the younger generation, but I'll beg to differ that maybe it's not isolated just to that group. But
No,
you
I
get
don't think it's isolated. Do you?
no, not at
Yeah.
all. I mean, you get that's where there's loneliness, and in that, there's a lot of comparison, feelings of inadequacy. So, back to your introduction, it really is an area to really be looked at and to bring awareness to. And I as much as this information really brought the reality top of mind for me, I also found it refreshing to find people, especially this person who was younger, starting to really talk about it, bring awareness, and actually do something about it, showing an example. So I was really pleasant to really hear that information and hear her share that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really interesting. We're talking about this. I was talking to someone earlier today, one of our hosts, and I was trying to help her with using her AI. And I went on to tell her, and now I'm reflecting on how this may have sounded to her. I went on to tell her that I have conversations with my AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't explain why I do that. Like, I'll say to it, good morning, have you had coffee? And, I'll have a conversation. And so she looked at me weird, like, man, I think you need my help, right? And I said, oh, okay, let me explain why I'm doing that. It's not because I don't have anybody to talk with, but I'm training my AI to better represent me. And if it only looks at what I ask it to create, it's not going to know what my personality is. And so I shared my screen and I showed her the response that I made to my AI this morning after I said, good morning, are you having a cup of coffee, right? It came back and said, what kind of Harley Davidson Bronx girl, 36 years of recovery idea are we going to have today? Now, people may hear this and think I've lost my mind, but AI by itself is not a substitute for connection. However, it's a great tool, but that's the dilemma we're having, isn't it?
It is. And it was a beautiful example because I was really going to share the importance of intent
Yes,
and intuition with AI. I mean, you had an intent as far as starting that conversation and the intent and of training. And so, yeah, and AI can feel like a companionship. It doesn't judge. It's there. If we get an idea at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's there to answer. And it doesn't interrupt. And so, it can also organize our thoughts, help us really get inspiration. That's what I use it for. And I also have to think about my intent because I'm a creative. I love to write. And I set an intention with it, using this for inspiration and what it comes back with, what resonates with me, what
Right?
information. Yeah. And so it's really some positives, and it can't replace that eye contact. It can't replace the soul
No,
to soul connection that we have when we're with another human being. The hug, the just sitting in silence, that life force interchange that we have between us. And so it's a really important component to remember that it can't replace that. And
yeah,
so it brings to mind for me, which I learned, gosh, a long time ago, and I still feel it's always prevalent when I come back to it, is technology is always so far ahead sometimes of how we can process it, our
yeah,
minds, our emotions. And I think we need to remember that we have choice in how we participate with the technology. And
I
again,
agree.
and again, going back to using our intuition and even talking to some folks who haven't used artificial intelligence, there's a fear there.
Yeah.
And I
And I
would
want to
say,
talk
well,
about this. Oh, I'm sorry. I
no, I was
wanted to
just going to
also,
say, go back to setting an intention.
that's it. And let's talk about the intention because this doesn't happen out of just boredom. Like people think if you're like talking to AI, Pat, man, go get a date, go join a dating app. No, life transitions disrupt things. Walk us through life transitions, loneliness, and let's call it the grip it could have on us because that's why you're doing this. There are these underpinning things that can stop people in their tracks, right?
Yeah, I mean, we look at the major transitions in our lives, people retiring, and I actually I find it fun that a lot of people are finding new words for retirement. But you also have that change. You have divorce. You have the passing of our loved ones. You moving. You changing careers. All of that. Spiritual awakening. It can leave us in that gap where kind of the what we learn from society is, yay, we get to retire. And are we, when we go home at the end of the day, are we talking about what that means to us? If you're in a job for 30 or 40 years with a company, you have a identity, you have a role. And then all of a sudden, say you were in the office all that time, that interaction with people, a lot of changes from that nice, happy retirement dinner to waking up the next day and saying, all right, what am I going to do with my life? And so life coaching really, what I love about it is it brings you to where you are in the present. It allows that space for you to get in touch with, okay, where are you? Where do you want
Yeah.
to go? And maybe even before where do you want to go, are you allowing yourself to feel those feelings, whatever you're feeling?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And the
movement.
key
So,
also isn't it spiritual life coaching too. I mean, that's
yeah.
that's so important. But the one thing I say all the time, you and I did not get here alone. I know I didn't. To this day, I have 5 coaches because I need coaching in different areas at different times,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I learned that lesson because I tried to do it alone myself and almost drank myself to death. Talk about lonely. Hello,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
And it creeps up on us very subtly and slowly until we realize, oh my gosh, where am I?
oh my
And
God.
so having that consistent support and having that awareness, even if it's just a twinkle in whatever moment you're in, to say, hey, let me give this a try. Let me see where I am, because it's hard to get out of our head. It can be a scary and lonely place there. And so if we have someone there to really connect and just hold that space for us to be who we need to be, that's the beautiful part. A lot of these things and topics can feel very complicated. And if we can come back to ourselves and just say, how am I feeling? And what do I need in this moment? It can be very simple to help bring us back.
Kathy, let's talk about this for a minute in the context of what I said earlier, and that is, loneliness. Talk about this, because sometimes I know in my life what I've thought about was loneliness means adding more, doing more, being more. But let's talk about how life coaching can help integrate and assist, because this is the most important thing. When we're talking about life coaching, people don't understand how powerful it is. Walk us through it for this particular topic.
Yeah, it's really getting to what do you want in your life, and also getting in touch with what do you already have in your life. Really looking at what does it mean to you to have connection. You may have people in your life we go through our sessions and talk that, I really do have a lot of people in my life, and I just haven't been spending that focused quality time with them. Or I've been filling my calendar with all these events and I still feel lonely.
Oh,
Maybe you get to, maybe just one or two. I love those game nights with my friends, and I just love having coffee once a month with that one true friend. So it's really, where in your life can maybe you work with what you have, and where haven't you been spending that time that you want? It could be adding more if you don't have anything, and a lot of times it could be, what do you have in your life that you can already work with, that you see you can really nurture a little bit more?
yeah.
So it's really just not one side. I think it's easy to think with that feeling of disconnection or lack we need to add. And it's really just going in and seeing what's there. And that's the beauty of the life coaching and the spiritual life coaching, because you bring in that connection.
Yeah.
You bring in that connection to yourself and the wisdom of that higher part of you that can really show you that bird's eye view.
Yeah, let me comment on something you said, because I want people to get this about the work you do. First of all, I want to make sure they get information about you. But you said something, and it's like a light bulb went on. I just have to say it, because what is the benefit of working with you? And I'm going to give you an example. If I sat in front of you and you looked at my schedule, right, you would walk me through some things. But the one thing you might see is how I could benefit from being of service to others. Now, that's a different kind of doing more, right? You're not going to tell me clean your room. Well, you might, right? But you would work with me specifically. You will listen to me. You will help me navigate through the sludge, the mud, the water slide, the clouds, whatever that is. Because those are things, Kathy, I have not been able to do alone. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. And it's that listening part. It's on my part, it's preparing myself for each session, and it's creating that space, and it's being in total presence. So I can pick up on, I may reflect back to you, well, Dr. Pat, you've been saying, you've been mentioning this, and this, and you also say you want to do this. How do you feel about that? Bringing it to your attention without me providing any answers or judgment. And so it's really coming from a place of listening and using my own intuition on, this might be important here. Asking permission, hey, can I share something with you that I've observed? Looking at your face, looking at your expressions, like maybe that exasperation. Gosh, I hear what is that about? Exploring those nuances that in everyday conversation may not be noticed or acknowledged. And it's a beautiful space to be able to really get into those moments that can go by us day to day in each conversation.
I was working with one of my coaches, and you could tell whenever I'm in a little frenzy, because you don't see yourself, and you would see, I bet you would call me out on this. And I'm working with my coach, and I got my drink, right? My little water or honey water or whatever the heck I'm drinking now. And I got my little drink in my antique Dunkin' Donuts mug. Okay, I'm probably going to have to wipe out the label on this in the video. But the bottom line is my coach noticed that I'm trying to listen, but I picked up the cup and drank every 10 seconds.
Mm.
Okay, I'm not kidding. Like it was like talking, she's talking, and I take my drink. She said, "Are you like on a water diet?" Okay. The answer was no. She said, "Then you are obsessing about something, Pat. I can
Mm-hmm.
always tell.
Mm-hmm.
The last time you were obsessing, you brought a ping pong ball to the coaching session and you kept bouncing it on the table. But you
Yeah.
see, I
Yeah.
didn't notice that. I
Yeah.
didn't notice that behavior."
Yeah. And that's the beauty of being in a relationship with a coach, because you have that relationship. Your coach was able to notice and to get to know you and to be able to go to that deeper level. So I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I had there was one when we talk about, you know, the loneliness. I worked with a client who really felt like she didn't have a spiritual connection. She didn't even know what that meant in her life. She could see it in all her other friends, and they all seemed to have something, and she didn't. And so, we went through and really explored that. And what she came up with was being in nature. That's what it was to me. And so it's another way of really using coaching to really get to that reconnection with yourself. And without the outside look of what it looks like on the outside. And really, what does it mean? Getting in touch with what does it mean to you? And by the end of that session, she was really able to own that. Oh my gosh, I really do love that. And it didn't have to look a specific way. And so it's another beautiful way of how, coaching and then integration can really get us in touch with where we feel disconnected and lead to that lonely feeling.
Yeah. And Kathy, this has got to be such a rewarding part of your journey and the work you're doing here. I really want people to know because I've gotten to work with you from day one. And I've
Mm-hmm.
watched this and I've seen you and I've seen how you show up for these shows. Your message is powerful. The other thing I know is your heart is so open to help people. How do people work with you? Where do they go? What do they find? Because you are the person that has been through life, that understands what this is. That's why you're on the path you went on, and now you're giving it back. So, how do they find out about you? How do they work with you?
Yeah, go to oursoulwhisper.com. Everything is there. If you prefer to send me an email, it's oursoulwhisper@gmail.com. I would love to connect with you. I wanted to share, kind of leave with a quote and then an invitation, kind of as part of how to get in touch. So, to kind of sum up this episode today, I found a beautiful quote by Michel de Montaigne. He's a French Renaissance writer. And he said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." That kind of sums it up. And that sums up the work that I do to assist you to belong to yourself. And so I I invite you to visit my website, book a consultation. I'm offering or integration to wholeness and coaching sessions for a heart gift, because I really want to make this available and
Yeah.
accessible to see what it's all about and to try it out. So you can listen to it and hear the impacts that it's had on our lives. Give it a try and see if it's something that fits
Yeah.
into your life.
Yeah. The other thing you do, and I would like you to talk about it because we still have a few minutes left, is
Sure.
there's an integration part. And
Yeah.
what you also help people do is look at perhaps a younger part of ourselves longing to be chosen. Take us through
Yeah.
some of that because I want to leave people with knowing and understanding the work that you do is to help them see these things that they can't see.
So when we have the integration part of this, which is a little bit separate than the coaching, it's actually a very powerful session on its own. We have these feelings that come up. We were talking about inadequacy or not feeling seen, Or maybe there's an angry part of us that feels overlooked. What does that feeling want to say? And it's making a connection with that part of ourselves and giving it a voice and seeing what it needs. And it's allowing that wise part of ourselves to come in, could be the spiritual part, to really offer that love, support, acknowledgement, a different way of looking at things. So it's really a way of connecting with ourselves that's keeping us in the past where we make decisions and we're trying to create this new future, but we're coming from past hurts, experiences, beliefs. So it's really creating a future coming from a present and a future coming from a new place of being. And it's really acknowledging those parts of us that are still feeling hurt and stuck in the past, remembering when, oh, that happened. We don't want that to happen again. And they're really, looking at it as these parts of us that want to protect us from pain and the hurt, not wanting to go there again. So it's really giving them voice and to see what they need. It's a very powerful, it's what got me into this work, and it's what I use all the time. It's a daily maintenance inward for me. And I can't, I have so much to talk about what an impact it has, and it can have on your life.
Kathy, I want to thank you so much because you've signed up for this. And, what you also share is that if something today that we've talked about, something we've said shows up for people, and even if they're curious, even if they're thinking now about, do I feel lonely? They can give you a call. They can have a session with you. And again, remind people how to do that.
Yeah, it's ourslowwhisper.com. And, it's really signing up for a consultation. Let's talk and connect and just see how this work can be in your life and how it can make a difference. I'd love to work with you and see, kind of go on the journey with you.
I love it. For those out there, Kathy is a phenomenal coach. I mean, you could look at her reviews, but more importantly, this isn't just something she does. This is what's in her heart. And those are the best coaches you want to work with. Thank you, Kathy, for everything.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Pat. Thanks, everyone.
And I want to thank all of you out there, because without you, without the listenership, without the viewership, you're not going to be able to pay this forward, pay the message forward. If you know somebody that you feel is struggling with loneliness, please pass on Kathy's information. Please do that. That's a gift that we'll keep giving. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Our Soul Whisper with Kathy and Dr. Pat. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Take a moment now to breathe in and reflect on today's message. If it brought you peace, clarity, or insight, let it settle in your heart and maybe even journal about it. Remember to like and share this episode with someone who's ready to listen within. May our soulful echoes ripple outward, awakening awareness and deep remembrance. If this show touched something within you, share it. Let's create a world where most of us pause, listen inward, and allow our light to shine. Visit oursoulwhisper.com for more.